Hey everybody, welcome to Go Bold. I'm your host, Jody Atariwala, and today I'm very privileged to have on our podcast Sarvjit Pal Singh, who is a member of the British Army, and he's currently serving as Squadron Quartermaster Sergeant. So Sarvjit, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jyoti. It's always a pleasure as well, to be on your show and to discuss my journey and looking forward to share all this excitement, ups and downs, what I've faced so far, and to share my achievements. So yeah, thank you very much for having your guest on your show. So looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it as well, Sarvjit. So as I do with most of my guests, from all around the world, I start by asking, what made you join the military, and why did you pick the branch that you did?
So there was two reasons. The first one I would say was the family, because obviously even though my dad and my granddad not directly involved with this sort of the military side of it, but they were part of uniform, so they were part of the police service. So
Okay.
having seen the uniform since I was growing up as a kid, that always have some sort of fascination, with regards to the uniform, and always wanted to be to do a job which is sort of like attracts me to do that, in the sense of want to be do a uniform job.
Mhm.
So that's one part of it, because obviously seeing them doing all the sacrifices, they the achievements as well, so it's more like inspiration for me to do something well as well in my life. Secondly, as we all know, Sikhs, around the globe, as globally, that Sikhs have contributed so much during in World War One and Two, and we all been growing up hearing their stories, especially now within last decade and whatsoever. Then now it's more likely it's been renowned quite, at a bigger level. For example, like Bollywood's making films like such as Casey and stuff like that. So that's quite proud history, the legacy we have. So it's
Mhm.
just sort of like the family values as well as the history. That was a combination for my choice to join the military as well. Um, the reason I joined the branch, which I am at the moment, which is the Army Eco, working with the aviation side of it. Then again, the sort of like the main pioneer was my younger brother, who joined the army before me, and he was already in there. Even though I wanted to do a different trade, but because being a Commonwealth citizen, then you have the security clearance implication. Then you have, whether you can join some certain trades or you can't join certain trades, and then by default, then as well, he's already in the army, so might as well just join the same branch. At least then we both brothers are serving together.
Mhm.
So that was the way, or the incentive, or was the purpose to join the same branch as him.
Awesome, awesome. And so correct me if I'm wrong, but you were born in India, and you emigrated to the UK.
Yes, absolutely. Born and brought up in India, and then I came to UK when I was age of 2021.
Okay. And so once you decided to join the military and dedicate your life to serving your nation, the United Kingdom, um, uh, how was that how was that met from the British military side? Obviously, as you just mentioned, Sikhs have a very proud and distinguished history of being warriors and serving in militaries around the world. Um, but wearing a turban can sometimes pose challenges. Oftentimes, Sikhs in the U.S. military have to seek special accommodations to serve while retaining their beard and their turban and such. How was it in the British military, and how was it once you actually joined and started your training? What was that like for you?
Uh, Totally agree with that. It has its pros and cons. Um, Luckily, because the British Army does understand or realize the importance of having the diversity within it, and understood the needs of different faiths, the culture, and they were more than happy to accommodate. So that was sort of the half the battle was won already as it is. But yes, the challenges we have, because if we look at now in modern time, I think around there's 225 to maybe 250. There's Sikhs across the whole defense, which includes the Army, RAF, Navy, and there's about 175 to 200 in the British Army. So which is at the moment. But when we joined it, which is 17 years ago, there was not many Sikh soldiers were out there. Either they were few, but they were already in the process of joining the army, so they were in the same situation as myself about 17 years ago. So in terms of the coaching, mentoring, and guidance, there was a bit of there's a quite lack of understanding from that side of it. So it's pretty much having your own understanding, having your own sort of moral courage to face the challenges and come up with a solution, and briefing your chain of command. So for example, if someone asks questions, why are you wearing turban? So for example, if you're doing a PT, physical training lessons, then why are you wearing a small patka? Why are you not wearing the turban and stuff like that? So you are confident enough to give reasons. For example, like when we wear a kara, and any PT lessons you do, health and safety, obviously takes priority. And they say, well, you can't wear this, then you have to stand on your grounds, and you have to explain them, and you have to explain them in sort of convincing manner so they can understand, they can respect that. And these were the challenges I have initially. For example, why am I wearing kara? You're not allowed to wear any part of jewelry when you wear uniform. But then I have to make them realize it's not a jewelry; it's just the article of faith. And why is this so? What is the meaning of it? And then once that education piece was delivered, they were happily board, and they were saying, what else can we do? When I told them, like, part of my faith and my culture, I visit to the Sikh temple every Sunday, and they say, okay, we'll find the nearest Sikh temple and we'll take you down there if you should you wish to.
Wow.
And so which was quite surprising for myself, because little things like that does help you when you're going through the initial days of your training, because you're and you're already dealing with so many other things as well. And if you want to go to Gurdwara and to do your prayers or do your part, or just have the peace of mind, and things like that can be implemented in the training program, then yes, why not? It just makes life a lot more easier. So I was lucky enough in the way to having that knowledge and having that moral courage to stand up to those barriers or the challenges, and can give them a solution as well. Because the one thing I've realized, anywhere, any nature of sort of the job you do, or the business you are in, as long as you can identify a problem, but as long as you provide them a solution as well, and that's what matters. Because giving them a problem, and if they haven't got any clues, they will straight away will be on the denial side of it. But if you say, look, this is the problem, but this is a solution, can you please help me out? And 9 times out of 10, you are most likely in a winning situation.
That's a great approach. I think, like you said, it's one thing to identify a problem, but it's also another thing to come to them and say, here's a solution, or a couple of ideas that I have, and hopefully that's received in a positive way. What was it like for you amongst your compatriots, your colleagues that you were training with? You and I have had a chat before, and you told me about one of the guys that you were training with, and how there was some difficulties there at the beginning. I would love for you to share that story again, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was 21 years old that time, migrated from India. So I was, and I'm sure I've shared this thing with you as well. So I was trying to get myself into the British culture, understanding the language, the pronunciation and everything. And I joined the British Army, which has its own sort of little bit slang language, the terminology they use, and then they have a separate culture as well, in the sense way they do business and stuff like that. So I was getting a little bit settled into that sort of like the culture and the language, and then I'm into a different world now. So it was more like a shock sort of side of it. Then I was like, okay, what's going on? How do I need to do it? So I was just a little bit quiet, and then I was a little hesitant to ask questions, because I was quite cautious. If I say something, how would this take it? And that the language was the barrier for me. And then, every time I used to say that, people used to laugh, okay, were you saying in a different way? And I used to look at them and say, okay, why are you laughing at? And then they say, okay, well, you said this means this. I say, okay. So again, having that positive attitude, or the positive side of it. Okay, so if I said something wrong, but how can I say this, in a right way? And then they used to he teach me. So I still remember, he's still a good friend of mine, but unfortunately he's left the army at the moment. So he was little, he was, I think, 33 years old. His name is Tom Shane. So me and him had a deal. I said, look, why don't you be my English teacher, and I'll help you out doing your locker. So I'll earn uniform and I'll do everything for you. And you just need to, like, just correct me as in whatever I, say or pronounce anything wrong. I said, yeah, happy deals. But works out. It was like a little expensive deal for me, because he used to teach me for half an hour. And then I was like all night doing his uniform.
For 2 hours.
Yeah, for 2 hours. Um,
That's awesome though.
Yeah, but then again, you need to come up with some sort of like the coping mechanism. And how are you going to survive? You just cannot be just hang yourself in there and say, look, I don't know what to do. And I think, and this is, I like about myself, when I find myself in there, I try to look for a solution.
Hmm.
And because when I know, because I want to survive, and if I don't find a solution, it's not going to look good on me. Because that's another part of me, by saying I just want to prove myself I am no lesser than anyone else. I am as equal, as brilliant, as intelligent as everyone. If just the language is the barrier, that I won't take that as a barrier. I will overcome that.
Mhm.
Um, so coming with different sort of types of it, but I think it was good, because those people in my platoon that time, they haven't seen any sort of diversity. They haven't met a Sikh guy. They haven't shared a room with a Sikh guy. So when I used to get up in the morning, I used to do the pony of my turban, just wrap it around in a certain way, and then used to tie. And then everyone used to stand around and look at me. And within 6 7 weeks, me having that sort of creating that, the space for a little bit banter and then a bit of fun, I think we all became really, really good friends. And after that, and it kind of benefited both ways, because I learned a lot from them, and they understood the diversity, the reason why I wear turban, about my culture and my faith. So yeah, it was a win-win situation for both, both sides.
I'm so glad to hear that. I've often said in many of the chats that I've done on this podcast, and many of my social media posts, that I believe that there is strength in diversity. And I think it's wonderful that people like yourself join the military, serve their nations with honor and integrity, but while also maintaining your faith and not compromising that. And conversely, it's nice that the military is, I would like to hope and I believe that they are embracing that diversity now more than ever.
Yes, because suddenly, and if I talk about the British Army, that sort of diversity inclusion was lacking massively, massively. There was like, things was going wrong, and then the Ministry of Defense was not identifying the problem. But then they said that we can see the trend and we need to do something about it. That's where, when the 2010 Equality Act came into sort of like into the floor, then everyone said, right, now you have to comply by those diversity and inclusion side of it. And that's just not for the army, for everyone else in the UK. So I think what I've seen so far, I think the army has gone in a better way to implement that diversity, to identify everyone's diverse.
Mhm.
Diversity does not belongs to a certain faith, to a certain culture. Diversity, to me, diversity means different skill sets, right?
Sure. Yeah,
Even though we share the same culture, we share the same religion, but the skill sets you will bring into to the party, and I bring it to the party. For me, that's a diversity. The
totally.
bit, yeah, the bit we need to now, we are really working on, is the inclusivity, right?
Mm.
Culture where we can utilize your skills so as my skills to get the better output of it. And I think that's where now the whole focus is on that part of it. And that's why there is so much things that come in, into play now, having that which we call it the 9 protective characteristics, which is your age, gender, sex, religion, faith, whatever is out there. And now we start to incorporating that, and now we start to raising more awareness about it. And also, I think the Ministry of Defense has launched so many faith networks as well. For example, Defense Sikh networks, Defense Hindu network. It's just to be in line with that 2010 Equality Act, and also implementing that we are more diverse employer than anyone else, which is to a certain extent they are absolutely right, because there are so many opportunities coming now to everyone. And just saying, okay, if there is a Sikh guy who's been on Queen's Jubilee Parade for the first time, that's been highlighted globally.
Hmm.
Good. If there is someone else, like for example, we have this now. There was a Hindu soldier who came from Goa who was selling peanuts out there, and now he's came to join the British Army. Now he's making fortune out of it. So that's another inspirational story we talk about it. So it's good, because I personally believe that these diverse stories do bring the motivation for everyone else, because everyone just learn from their journey, and then how they've come across to certain barriers and challenges, what's their coping strategy, and then how do they find themselves now fit into the society. So it's just quite fascinating, and it's also quite learning experience for everyone else.
Hmm. There was another story that you told me about previously, about a colleague of yours, and I'll jog your memory by only saying the way that he would wake you up.
Oh yes.
And I, I, I I'm prompting you with that because I would love to hear that story again, because um, as our listeners will hear, it turned out positively, but it started out in a negative way, and I'd love to hear how you dealt with it.
Sure. As I said to you before, right? Because we were in the platoon, and then obviously this individual, um, he never worked with sort of any other faith networks. His cultural awareness probably was the blindness state. So when he saw me, he's clearly thinking that I'm an immigrant, right? I'm come from a different country. I'm here to only steal money, and take benefits and stuff like that. Not considering the part that I've joined the British Army, and we are wearing the same uniform, and we're in the same army. So he made few comments at the beginning which I couldn't understand, because obviously having the language barrier. But I could sense it. There was something, because the way his facial expression was, the body language was. I said, okay, no dramas. I can deal with it. But because I couldn't do anything, or I didn't say anything, that was for him was basically as an encouragement. Well, I can get away with everything. So we deployed on exercise. We were sharing this trench together, and then uh, I was in my sleeping bag. He was on stag sentry, and then he came in and waked me up, and he just used to kick me in my head. And I said, "Oi, you're on stag." So that was just sort of like the side of it. And I thought maybe he just been tired and things like that. That's the very first night, and I let it go. And then because I didn't say anything, so he thought maybe that's just normal. And then he kept doing the same thing again and again. And I actually had to stand up to him and I said, "Look, what is your problem? Why are you doing that to me?" And well, he said, "Well, I don't like you because you come from foreign world country. Now you join the army and you're doing that." And I said, "But do you understand why can I join the army and stuff like that?" So again, taking that as initially I was angry. I
Hmm.
was angry.
Sure.
It's disrespect, someone touching your head or kicking your head. I would 100% take it as a offense, because we don't do that in our culture, in our faith. Um,
I don't
so
think any I don't think anyone that is respectful of others would do that.
yeah, 100%. And I had the two options. Either I said I can really get angry, I can, you know, confront him, and we'll see where we go from there. But there, then again, thinking about the consequences is probably not gonna go in my favor, in his favor, because then we both get punished. So I
Mhm.
said, and I then that night actually I was sitting there and I was thinking, so how can I solve this problem? There's clearly a problem. If I go to my second commander, they probably will tell us, they will probably give us punishment, whatever. But I said, no, but that won't stop. That won't change his behavior. And for the key thing for me was to change his attitude and change his behavior.
Mhm.
So I sat with him and then I explained and then, went into a bit more depth with him. Then I, told him that why shouldn't you be touching my head? What are the consequences? What are the reason behind it? And then I believe that by giving the educational piece, once he understood, then he apologized to me and then he said, you know what, I never actually dealt with something like that, but he actually thanked me for that by just raising his awareness.
Wow. Well, it's obviously a negative turned into, thankfully, a positive. But it's a shame it's a shame that he started out with that approach.
Absolutely. And what I've seen as well, because I mean, if we say that we can eliminate discrimination, we can't. It will still exist, and that will goes back to the way you've been brought up in a family and things like that. I mean, where I am at the moment, I mean, back in phase one training establishment, there are still incidents are happening, and when we do a bit more investigation into that, goes back to the way they've been brought up into the family. So so that could be the case for this individual as well, because he never worked with someone else with a different faith or different cultures. He probably don't understand the respect side of it. But it's just set, having to sit with him and going through a bit of educational piece. And I think if that approach worked, then why not? Why not then? Rather than just going to the other side of it and just say me claiming that he's been discriminated, then he will get punished, but that won't change his attitude and behavior. He probably hate me more by highlighting the fact. So it's just more like sensible approach how I dealt with it, and luckily in touch with that change into the positive. We are good friends, still good friends till now, and he always thanked me for that.
Well, I'm so happy to hear that. Um, Tell me now a bit about your career. So you go through your training, and then did you? So you joined the army, but you are kind of on the aviation side of the army, which I love because I love aviation. So tell me how you went down that path.
Um, as I said to you before, because this is my brother, he was already, he was already in that branch, and then obviously I wanted to join the Royal Military Police initially, but because of the security implications, I couldn't. Then I said, okay, you know what, I'm going to join the same as my brother. I was still not fully understood the role and responsibilities and the role my corps plays at that time or in modern time. But then when I started my phase two training, then I found out, you refueling the aircraft, you re-ammoing you putting bullets into it, you using the different kind of missiles, Kilo November, your rocket launchers, and you also doing the communication side of it. So it was quite fascinating, and I said, wow, you know what, this just like was a blessing in disguise. So it just went into my favor. And also at that point, there was, I think, was my brother. He was the first Sikh to join the army air corps. There was no one. There was no one before that, right?
Cool.
But he was a non-wearing turban guy. And then when I came into there, then I became the turban guy. So it was quite good. And if you look into the British Army, if you look into the Corps, and we are both of us, we're doing really, and we have established a good reputation as well. I mean, so it's just really good. So it was just like it was pure luck. He joined it, and I just followed his footstep. And then working with Apache A64 is amazing, amazing experience. That the machine, the beast, is just unbelievable. So if I look back now and say, look, 17 years ago, if we would have joined the different cab badge, and I would be regretting myself. And by looking at Apache, I wish I could have joined the Army Air Corps, which I am at the moment. So,
Right.
but
Well, it's awesome. It's funny how things just kind of happen, and you end up where you're meant to be. So in the Army Air Corps, and um, being in the field that you were, where you were supporting the Apache, obviously you're serving during the global effort against terrorism, the coalition effort against terrorism. Uh, you deployed abroad, and tell me a little bit about deploying in combat. What was that like? I believe you went to Afghanistan. So I'd love to hear what it was like when you first arrived, and what you were doing there, and how it was to be there, because again, now you're in a combat theater, which is different from being within the UK.
It was brilliant, absolutely fascinating, because you know the part of when you join the army or the armed forces, then you definitely, you know that you're going to, it's going to be adventurous, it's going to be challenging, and it's a real fun. It's just real fun in the sense that you will deploy to the battles, you will deploy to the wars, and you will be fighting as well. So obviously, growing up watching all these Bollywood movies, so that's sort of like the mechanism still was playing. Okay, so when I found out that I was deploying with to Afghanistan in 2006, 2007, I couldn't wait. I was so excited, and I just my friends were asking me, "What's wrong with you? Why are you so excited? We were away for 6 months." I said, "Yes, that's the reason I joined the army for. I just wanted to be a soldier."
Right, right.
He goes, "You're mad, Singy." So he called me Singy that "You're mad." I said, "Well, I just love it. I'm going to be closer to the home as well." So, and it's just like going back to the same culture, and they just shook their heads. And I still remember when landing in Kandahar, and then just walking out of the aircraft and just having that, the same sort of smells you feel when you land in Delhi airport, or go back to home India. So, wow, this is coming back home as well. So it
Right.
was so surreal, because I was so buzzing, I was so excited, man. I was like, okay, right, I was everywhere. Come on, tell me, what do I need to do? Right, can I go that? Can I go? Can I do this and this and this? And I say, calm down, calm down. We're here for 7 now. You will get plenty of opportunities. In terms of being in the combat environment, I absolutely love it, because it was my first tour to Afghanistan, and I was achieving the aim, the purpose for the reason I joined the army for, because at least I am now experiencing the reals of the real soldiering side of it.
Hmm.
Um, I did not go onto the ground and fighting with the bad people, with the enemy. Where you say it, I just need to be careful what I say and how I say.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
yeah. So I didn't go out, but we were the sort of like the support element for the AH. For example, we're making sure that the aircraft is right outside, having the right equipment, having the right communication, have the right crypto, so they can talk to each other. And we were pretty much passing on the orders, whatever they were seeing on the ground, any J2 intels, we just pretty much filtering into to the side of it. I did have the opportunity to actually go out, and I think we went out a couple of times, but not really on sort of the roadside of it. But going out, for example, Lashkar, down there meeting with people, doing a little bit sort of stuff of it, but not in that sort of the fighting side of it, but just more like the Shura side of the meetings with the elderly, or just like, being the side of it. But I did do in Terp job for the US military, because I could speak a little bit Urdu, not Urdu, but the dialect for Pakistani, like Urdu, they pretty much speak the same language.
Hmm.
I'd had, so they were asking for people. They were doing some sort of a sneaky beaky operation alongside the borderline,
Hmm.
and they said, well, speak this language. And my sergeant, who knew that I can speak a little bit language, he said, right, do you want to give it a go? And I said, well, it's just a big operation. I really don't know what to say, because I don't want to say yes. I might not be able to deliver that challenge. And and they said, don't worry about it, just go. And if you can help, then you can help. If you can't help, then this is not the end of the show.
Hmm.
And then I went out with them. We did this business. Then we captured a few people. Then we did the interrogation, and luckily we could speak the same language, and helped out in that sense of it. But just um, yeah, it just sort of whole sort of things. It's different jobs every day, and then you're meeting with different people, you're doing different tasks. So it was just brilliant. I loved it, because you in that routine, then what you're doing every day, right? And also being out there, the people pretty much can speak Punjabi as well.
Mm.
So I remember there was used to be a local shop inside, and the shopkeepers, because then I was going out and I just go and say hello, Sat Sri Akal to them, and just really became really good friends. And then every time when they say, oh, Sat Sri Akal Paji, you're here, come on, you take that as a token, as a gift, like, just giving a tea, coffee, or just like a DVD. And everyone could say, right, how do you get away with that stuff? I said, well, I ask for it because I just speak the same language. And I
Right,
said, okay,
right.
next time when we go, can you come with us and you can do a bit of a negotiation with us? I said, oh, just because I'm Indian, you think I'm good at it? He laugh at it.
The whole barter thing.
Yeah, whole bargain of it. Um, yeah, I made really good friends out there. And while we were out there, obviously being an Indian, I started a cricket out there. So we wrote to the few companies out there, said, look, is there any way? So it's all about winning hearts and minds. And the people who were inside the camp, they can't go home as well. For example, like the local civilians as well. They were people from India, from Jalandhar, from my hometown, people from Pakistan, people from somewhere else, but speaking the same language, sharing the same culture. So, we were just having a chat, having a food, and someone said, Paji, can you do something? Can we start playing cricket? I said, okay, leave it with me, see what I can do. And then I wrote a few letters back in here, and obviously they loved it, and they just sent all the kit out there. We had a mats, bats, pads, all the cricket equipment. We managed to find this compound, and every Sunday we used to have a T20 games against British Army and the local civilians, and it was the highlight, for everyone. And really good. It was really good, and people saw that, and it just kind of worked in a certain way, because if they need to make something, they will always ask me, oh, can you go and please speak to this guy, this individual, and see if we can come up with. And then that was just a bit more networking, and it was good, really good. And I said to myself, I said, I'm more than happy to go back anytime.
Yeah.
And so, but I ended up doing free tours, which was like 7 months, 5 months, and 5 months. So two of them were like back to back, literally.
Wow.
um yeah.
That,
Amazing.
that that's awesome. And again, it speaks to the fact of having that diversity. The British Army having that diversity with somebody like you serving is an asset. You never know where all these, like you said earlier, all these different people bring different things to the table, and so clearly you were able to help out in those ways. And part of it isn't just combat. It is building friendships and partnerships. And so when you're able to play cricket with the local indigenous people, that's awesome.
Yeah, it just break that sort of ice, and then they thinking that we're not there to destroy things. We are there to help them out. That's
Right.
as in hearts and minds. So that's what it was. And if by doing little things, if they can pass the right positive message outside the wire, then why not?
Totally.
But yeah, but I 100% agree on the what you just said, that having diversity always brings the X factors into any employment. If for example, if I can be there, I can speak the language, if I can make things happen, then why not? For example, like, the where I'm at the moment, there's a lack of diversity, in the sense of there was hardly any anyone from Sikh faith background. So when anyone who joins the British Army, as like any Sikh soldiers, the first thing they always struggle with is turban issue. Well, I tell them, look, I can sort it out. For them, it will take probably 10 to 15 days, but I can make things happen within half an hour and an hour. And that's, again, having that diversity brings the X factor and helps out each other.
Hmm. Well, let's speak a little bit to that, because now, so you did those combat tours in Afghanistan. Um, what was the next step for you once you returned back to the UK?
So the next step, obviously, then once you've done those tours, then you need to broaden your employment. Then you cannot just focus in one area. Then I decided from there onwards, I said, look, I want to be a bit more specialized in tactics. I wanted to be a bit more specialized in delivering training. So I went on to done the courses, such as chemical, biological, radio, nucleological instructor, so as a CBRN instructor.
Hmm.
And again, there was a myth uh, about having a beard and not wearing a respirator. For example, there was thing that if you're Sikh and if you go long beard, then you cannot wear a mask, or as you cannot wear a foot respirator. You have to put Vaseline. You have to do this and that. And And when I look at things and when I question myself and I think, okay, there's something is not right here. So I said, okay, I'll do the course and I'll see what is the real story. So I
Hmm.
went course again, no one has done it before. Maybe it's just that fear factor. That's the myth as well. I went and did the course and I said, that's absolutely fine. So having that Vaseline, having the seal is absolutely myth. There is no such thing. You know,
Right.
yeah, I didn't trim my beard for that. I just went, put it on, did a bit of, the engineering around it because there could be a valve is probably not tight. There's something is the mechanism is not right. So, so I've got the experience which I start to implementing back into to our Sikh soldiers. Said, well, that do not. Don't think you cannot wear, respirator or anything like that. So things like that. So I've done that course. Then I did the weapon instructor course. Then I did the drill instructor course, a MAT 3, which is a battlefield casualty. So all sort of things which you need to be in possession in order to deliver the training to the recruits as well. And also, some people call me badge collector because every time I see a course, I want to do it. So, I'm
Why not?
touch wood. Yeah, touch wood. Lucky enough, I have got the most qualifications now. Probably the most qualified sort of individual, one of the qualified soldiers within the British Army. Certainly not Sikh. Then yes, so I feel myself quite fortunate and lucky enough to gain that sort of experience and knowledge.
Good for you. Good for you. I think knowledge is never a bad thing. If you can take as many courses as you can, it all helps build you, your knowledge base, the repertoire of talent that you have. There's no negative to learning more things.
It's a self-development. That's what I believe in. Because when you start learning, that's your growth stops. So being in the military, you always need to be pushing yourself. You need to constantly challenge yourself. Yes, they are not going to be an easy way. There's not going to be, these courses are definitely physically and mentally hard, but that's where you need to challenge yourself, and you always need to look for the self-development. What is after that? How can I make myself more employable where I can just, if there's something comes up and say, look, I have got this qualification, can I go and do this job? For example, there was a troll came in to go and deliver, we call it command leadership and management training to Saudi Arabia to their troop, and I put my name down for it. So hopefully we'll find out in 2 months' time if I'm deploying to Saudi Arabia to deliver the training to them as well. So things like that. The only opportunity will come through as long as you've got the right qualification. And also, the army gives you so much opportunities to do your higher education as well. Yeah, I remember I was sharing with you that I'm doing my master's in defense leadership.
Yes,
Um, yeah. So yeah, again, that's the army is telling we are paying for your higher education. Do you want to do it? And you just need to put yourself. Yes, it's going to be hard. You need to find that balance. With work, home life, and side of it, and then do it. But it's nothing impossible. It's achievable as long as you put your heart and mind into it.
totally. I completely agree. So tell me a little bit about that master's program. What are you focused on right now? How are you finding it? Are you enjoying it?
It was hard work when I started, and I said, "What I put myself into it." Every I always with the emotion I said, like, you know what, I'll do this. But when I start doing it, I said, why did I do that? I should stop.
Right. Yeah,
But
exactly. I
yeah,
volunteered for this.
yeah. So when I started, I was finding a little bit hard because I have not done studies in UK, and the way I have done my studies in India and here is totally different. Absolutely different. There's a different style of it. Here is you are your own teacher. You teach yourself. But back home in India, they just go into the classroom. There's okay, write these three questions, and one of them will appear in a question, and you will pass that. So that side of it. Um, the one thing I'm not good at reading, but I had no options. But now I enjoy reading. And when I read more, I'm finding more fascinating facts and stuff like that. For example, like I was telling you, that I was doing the assignment about India, Pakistan, and about the Kashmir conflict.
Right.
So yeah, I did that, which is I think it's quite good because I try to keep it balanced, and in my arguments. And now I am focusing on critical examine how in which way the terrorism can be deterred. So I'm looking at the different ways, the root cause of terrorism, and how can we try to mitigate the risk. And so I'm just reading a few more articles now. So it's just quite good, because the one I'm doing is for the different modules like strategic approach, leading changes and innovation, contemporary leadership. Um, Project management was one of the parts. So every module is different. It's nothing, there's no sync to it, which is, I find that is quite fascinating, because that you're not just learning one thing, you're just learning different factors of that bigger spectrum. So which is good, and adding in more into my knowledge.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And you are doing this while concurrently in your training role. Is that correct?
Yes, so doing my prime job and other commitments I have, then obviously got family, and then yes, yeah, doing masters with that.
And so, talk to me a little bit about the training. What exactly are you doing, and where is this taking place? Where are you actually situated and doing your day-to-day job?
So we have, it's called Phase One Training Establishment. It's called Army Training Regiment Purbright. So we have about 4 schools across the whole country where people enlist themselves into the British Army, and then they go through this 14 weeks training program where we transfer from the civilian to a soldier and give them basic skills so they can actually go through their sort of like a their career. So I am based at ATR Purbright, one of the training establishment. My role there is a squadron quartermaster sergeant. So I more like a logistic side of it. So I trying to provide them the resources they need to conduct the training. For example, if they're deploying on exercise and they need the food, the rations, then I will get that. And if they need weapons, I'll get that. If they need ammunitions, I'll get that. But also, I've been involved while I'm there, because I've got so much knowledge, and the sort of the courses, the instruction abilities, then also jump in and trying to deliver those skills as well. Just basically just delivering my knowledge or my experience, we used in Afghanistan, how we come across certain things, how do you do certain drills, if you got the IED, how would you avoid it, and things like that. So, that's why I'm trying to do it on the same time. And also on the same time, we're trying to raise cultural awareness as well. So
Hmm?
not just amongst the permanent staff, but also amongst the recruits as well. So going back to the problems I faced, I always put myself, into their shoes. So what if they still are facing the same problems? How can we try to mitigate that risk from day one? So I do that. I just go around there, ask questions. It's more like a discussion based sort of like the interaction. Ask them a few questions. What are the different cultures out there? What are the faiths? Talk about subculture, because it's quite complex subject it is.
Hmm.
And just trying to jog the memory and say, look, what are the do's and don'ts in each culture? What are the best person to speak to? So I think it's just working out really well. And on the same time, we have it's called inclusion councils. We, during the training, about 6-7 weeks, we bring them together, ask them the questions, whether they feel fit, and whether they think they're being treated appropriately, what barriers they have faced, how can we create the inclusive culture or the safe space where they can, speak up concerns about the diversity and inclusion. So yeah, so I'm quite lucky to be honest with you, to be in that role where I can make difference, because every time I've been through, whether that's been a recruit to being a section commander to at this point, I'm just thinking, well, if I can change anything, what would that be? And that's certainly my sort of focus, I would say, is that diversity inclusion piece. Just trying to create that space where everyone can feel they are valued.
That's awesome, and it speaks directly to my next question, which was, I believe you were the chairperson of the Defense Sikh network in the UK. Tell me, what is a Defense Sikh network, and how were you involved from the outset of the network, or yeah, how did you become involved with it?
Um, So the Ministry of Defense, as I said, going aligned with the Equality Act, has created different faith networks. There's the Christian Network, Hindu Network, and Defense Sikh Network. So Defense Sikh Network, which was known as the British Armed Forces Sikh Association, was launched in 12th of December 2014 at Sandhurst. So the whole point was creating that network was having that external agencies, whether they can support the serving soldiers, they can give the guidance. For example, if someone has any issues with the language or anything to do with the religion, if the chain of command would not take their words, then this external agency can go, no, this is Jen, this is true, this is how they should be done. And also same times to advise the chain of command as well, because there are people out there who does misuse the religion and the culture to their own advantage and benefits. So it was just there to support both sides of it. I wasn't initially involved, but there were some circumstances where there, as I said, that I have to take that moral courage and stand up to make a few changes. Then I became I was elected chairperson of Defense Sikh Network in April 2018. And I had the choice because you can have your short-term, long-term, mediums. So my priority was that time. I wanted to support our Sikh soldiers, but also wanted to make it quite renowned across the defense. Otherwise, what is the point creating a network where no one knows that you exist? How can
Right.
people approach you if they have any issues?
Right.
So just want to create that awareness again. So again, I took that opportunity as well as to change the perception of the gatekeepers in the sense of parents, that, like I'm sure I've told you, every time we went out to an kirtan or to do any ethnic, any community events, and then people will come to us, oh, what is Indian Army doing here? And I said, we're not Indian Army. We are part of the British Army. And they said, wow, okay, I didn't know that you can join the British Army. So that's again two things for us: either to change the perception and raise awareness, that there are opportunities out there. You need to just look into it.
Mhm.
So yeah, so we managed to do that. I think the people would love to see us out there, people, turban wearing Sikhs or non-turban wearing Sikhs wearing a British uniform, representing our faith, our culture, as well as our, armed forces as well. So I think we managed to raise the awareness, because what we want people to, we want to encourage more people to come forward and then join the armed forces, because we want to increase that number. We talk about, we have the legacy and the history, then we just want to carry forward. So that was another reason. And so we're just being out and about, changing the perception, also, working with different charities as well, see how can we build that profile for Defense Sikh Network. And with God's grace, that played in our favor. Now Defense Sikh Network is one of the most renowned network across the whole defense force. People now know about it. If they have any traumas, the first thing they'll do, they just ring the committee and say, look, we have these things, how can we solve this? Or if there is a certain regiment, they want someone to deliver that presentation about Sikhism, then they can, okay, can you come and please deliver that? Or can speak to one of us and we can point them into the right directions. For example, like the V-Day 75th anniversary, which happened was last year, and they wanted to find out if there was any Indian or any Sikh soldiers who has any history within that. And we had one soldier who's in the Navy. His grandfather served in Burma.
Okay.
So he had his medal. So it's all about bringing that history, now projecting again through the means of our Defense Sikh Network, which is now renowned. So it is the strategic approach we had. It actually went as per the plan, and I'm quite glad now. I'm quite happy with that, because now everywhere, whether you talk about north or south, people wanted to have statues of Sikh soldiers, to be established around the world, and they can approach, okay, to this Sikh network, say, look, can we have serving soldiers to come and attend the event, because that would look good on them. So yeah, so it's just working well, and hopefully we'll continue on this graph, and then we can manage our own issues. For example, when you said that, if there's a Sikh who wants to join the Canadian Army or the US, and if they have system like that, then we can influence the higher sort of them and say, look, would you want to look into this issue, and can we just do it that way? So yeah, 100% benefit your own.
I think it's so important because you're leading from example, and like you said, with other militaries, when they talk about things like a mask seal, you are able to definitively say we are in the British Army. It is a NATO army. It is a NATO force, a NATO partner. Um, you guys adhere to NATO standards. So if you can do it, then anyone else in the Commonwealth can, at the very least.
100%, because I think as human beings, by default, we go with these things when we don't know. Yeah, it can't happen.
Right.
We don't try to prod into it. We don't try to look for the solution. And I'm a different personality. I always look for solution. If there's a problem, there's always going to be a solution. So I'm just trying to help them out. So at least we are not classed as, as like, Sikh soldiers can't wear that. I don't want to establish that fact. No, because there were a few things as well now. They were saying, well, Sikh soldiers cannot wear a helmet. And I asked the question, why? Well, because of our Guru Sahib didn't wear it, so we don't want to wear it. But you are in the modern army, there's a health and safety, protocols you want to deliver. For example, if I'm taking a range, so I've got and there is a people who turn up with a helmet, I would definitely will more than happy to say no. If you're not compliant with PPE, personal protective equipment, you cannot do it, because something does happen, that's my neck on the line, then I would not. And I think this is where we talk about this diversity, but I think we should be willing to participate in the diversity as well. At least we need to give a see, look, if we can do it. If we can't do it, it's a genuine problem. No dramas. We can work around it. But rather than no to it, I think we should prod into it, and we should provide a solution.
Yeah, I completely agree. It goes in both directions. Absolutely. Yeah. So what is I've got two questions for you, kind of to conclude our chat. One is, what is the future path for Sarvjit Pal Singh? What is your trajectory in the army?
Well, you can always plan, but never goes to the plan.
Right. Yeah.
So my plan is to initially, as a senior NCO, I wanted to be a regimental sergeant major. That means you being the senior most soldier within your regiment, within your regiment. And we haven't had any higher rank than senior NCO wise to be in there. So that's my ultimate goal. This is what I want to achieve. Whether that time allows me to reach that, that's that's another question. But if that doesn't go plan, then then my plan is to finish my master's in 2023, serve as warrant officer class 2 for a couple more years, gain more experience, then apply for late entry commission. So then to become a captain, and then from there, don't know where we go, and what sort of things ahead. It's just always uncertain. But till that point, I am almost sure that I want to apply for late entry commission to be a captain, and hopefully retired as major or lieutenant colonel.
Good for you. That's awesome, Sarvjit. I absolutely wish you the best of luck in that goal and those endeavors. And I hope that we will absolutely keep in touch, and we'll follow your career over the next years. To conclude, you were, I guess it's the proper term is conferred or awarded. I'm not sure which one is the right one, but you received the MBE. So tell me, for those that are not familiar with what the MBE is, tell me what that is, and how did you receive it, and what did it mean to you?
Oof. It means a lot. It means a lot, and it stands for it's the UK's third highest prestigious award. Members of British Empire, member of the British Empire. I wasn't expecting that. It was just the news broke out to me, and I was in shock. And it took me 3 months, as I said to you before, to come with the terms that I've actually received, not received it, but I've been awarded. I've not actually received it yet. I'm still waiting for my investor to happen, and hopefully it will happen in the near future. And I will go down to the palace. Depends if it's Her Majesty the Queen or any part of the family members will reward me that. So yes, so the news broke out to me, and it was absolutely, I was over the moon, because it's one of those things I would never imagined. I would never dare to imagine. A 21-year-old boy, migrated from India, who had this language barrier, joined the armed forces, not knowing his destiny, not had a clue that what the challenges are lied in front of me, how I'm going to tackle that. It was just, everything was blurred, everything was uncertain. But the one thing I had, or two things I had my purpose and my positive mindset. No matter what's going to happen, I am going to take things positively. So I think having that positive mindset, every opportunity or every barrier I had, I managed to tackle in a way that changed people's perception, that changed people's behavior, that changed people's mindset. And I think just working with that sort of tools, didn't realize I gone actually that far, and then obviously doing what I do always, being as a defense signal work, and then seeing that sort of my efforts and hard work by my commanding officer. And then he recommended me for that, which I always say thank you to him. I just actually gone and see him this afternoon, so he was absolutely thrilled. So yeah, so when I look back over my journey, and seeing where I've started and where I've achieved and what else to come in there, I think it's just limitless. But as you have to put your head and mind into it, and then have the positive mindset, you can achieve anything. You can achieve your dreams. It's all possible.
What a great way to end this discussion. Congratulations to you, Sarvjit. I
Thank you.
Clearly well deserved. And I love your perspective, and I love your approach. I love that you're a positive person. I love that you take the time to represent Sikhs with honor and integrity, but not just that, but also serve your country, the United Kingdom, with honor and integrity. Having served in combat and continuing to serve, I wish you the very best of luck, and I look forward to following your career.
Thank you very much, Jyoti, and gives me the opportunity to self-reflect myself. And I'm sure I said to you, once you're in there, you don't pause and reflect, your achievements, or you look back into your journey. But shows like this, or the podcast like this, gives me the time to actually think back and say, look, how far have you come and what have you achieved? So thank you very much for taking me back to the memory lanes.
Oh, you're very welcome. Well, thank you for spending the time, and yeah, now we'll look forward to the next steps, and I'm sure there's many to come. So thank you, Sarvjit Pal Singh of the British Army. Thank you so much for taking your time to speak with me.
Thank you very much, Jyoti.
Have a nice day. Take care. Thanks, everybody. If you have any questions for us at Go Bold, please reach out to us at goboldthepodcast@gmail.com. And if you have any questions for Sarvjit, please pose them to us, and we will present them to him, and hopefully he'll be kind enough to answer. And we look forward to seeing you on another episode of Go Bold. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.